Yeah. So about 34-24.
Yeah.
What I had meant to say was the Titans winning 34-24. I realized, man, I'm not even going to try, man. People know what I said. Welcome back to the Blue Stable Podcast, guys. Official Colts podcast of Fansided. I'm Michael Terrazas, as always. With me, as always, is Rashad McGinnis. Destin Adams is still missing in action, but shout out to him. He is a new father. We can't wait because you already know Uncle Mike has some presents to give to the little one. So Uncle Mike and Uncle Rashad, man. Let's give it up for Rashad. Let's give it up for Destin, baby Destin Adams. Shout out to him. Proud of you, man. I love you, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, man. Dustin, you know, man, we rooting for you over here. I know it was a nerve-wracking process. We can't wait for you to get back up here and tell us all about it. But take your time. Take as much time as you need with the new family member, man. We're extremely proud of you, and we can't wait to have you back, bro.
Absolutely, absolutely. What we could wait for was to do this show. Honestly, what we could wait for was to do this show. And yeah, we can't wait any longer, man. We got another game here in the next 72 hours. So, man, Colts came up short, man. Colts came up short. The biggest game in Lucas Oil for some years now, I think. Depending on, the implications, who was coming to town, what it all meant, and the Colts came up short, man. There's, of course, as always, Colts Twitter is all over the place. They don't know who to blame, or they're trying to put the blame on the wrong person. But, man, we got a whole show to get into that, all right? The Colts did fall to the Tennessee Titans in overtime, 31-20 or to 34. Randy Bullock hit a game-winning field goal in overtime to send the Colts home crying. I really, really wanted to record last night, but Rashad wasn't feeling it. He wasn't feeling it, so I'm like, man, I really want to talk about it. But maybe it was a good thing because we had a chance to actually take in the game, and I had a chance to go back and watch it. Definitely some takes coming from this game, man. The Colts are 3-5. Again, there's too much talent on this team to even be 3-5, but that's why we're here, because we're going to talk about everything. Rashad, you just want to get straight into it?
Yeah, man, we could dive straight in. We didn't record yesterday, so I had to save you from yourself, Michael. I had to give you a chance to calm down, and kind of get right and rethink things, and then come back. That's why I did it, Mike.
There you go. Always watching out for your boy, man. Always watching out for your boy. But guys, we're gonna hop straight into it, man. There wasn't too much positives, but this is gonna be our segment: the good, the bad, the ugly. Probably talk about what's next for the Colts moving forward. But we're going to start with the good. I thought the number one thing from this game, of course, the defensive front did a good job containing Derrick Henry. Was it them, or was it the injury to Derrick Henry is why he got let up? I wouldn't put too much of that on Derrick Henry, honestly. I think Grover Stewart did a really, really good job yesterday beating his man, beating those double teams, disrupting the running lanes. I thought he did a good job. Al-Qadim Muhammad, Kwity Paye, they had a couple good run stops as well. I mean, it was the front. You limit Derrick Henry to 68 yards. What was it on 28 carries?
Mm-hmm.
You limit him to 68 yards. If you told me that, I would have said if you would have told me we scored 31 points, limited Derrick Henry to 68 yards, man, I would have said, how bad was the score? How bad did we win? But we didn't win. We lost. But I think that is a positive. The Titans' offensive line is good. We probably had our best game of the year on the defensive front in the run game, honestly, if that was my opinion. Rashad, what did you see from our defensive front, containing Derrick Henry, and how they were able to do that?
Yeah, I agree. This probably was our best game. The only game that I think rival this one is the Baltimore Ravens, who came into town on a 43-game 100-yard streak, and we ended that. So that was a pretty significant game, defending a run. But as far as Baltimore do their running a lot with their quarterback. This was the most traditional style run team that we were going to play. Some guys that play throwback football that builds everything off of their run game. Not a lot of teams like that still plays that way. And we went against the very best, and we had an outstanding performance, man. I'm so proud of this guy. Grover Stewart had one of the best games of his career. DeForest Buckner stout in the run game. Again, really occupying space and allowing these linebackers to come in and clean up everything. Okereke had 12 tackles, 10 of them were solos. He was really fitting in the run game. Darius made a couple plays, had a tackle for loss. Al-Qadim Muhammad was surprisingly decent in the run game as well. I think it was an all-around good effort. The safeties was playing around the box. Willis, before he went down with an injury. Sendejo made a lot of tackles out there. I think he had 7 or 8 tackles. It was a total group effort, and we know that's the way they like to play. They like to swarm to the ball in the run game. And other than a couple of boots that we gave up to Tannehill when they was moving him out of the pocket and rolling him out, we gave up a couple of little runs. But other than that, we was extremely solid all game. I was more than pleased with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely pleased with Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, Al-Qadim Muhammad. I mean, this is definitely, like we said already, one of the better performances from our front thus far. Getting into another good here, again, Michael Pittman had another game, 2 touchdowns, 86 receiving yards. I mean, he was just coming up with the ball. We'll talk about him a little bit more later in the show, but 2 straight touchdown catches. One against Elijah Molden. I can't remember what the first one was, I want to say, but target him, good things happen. And I mean, even when we were on the last drive of regulation, when we were trying to get down the field, Carson Wentz lobs it up, and literally in a sea of insanity, guess who comes out of it with the ball? Michael Pittman. It's not even a joke anymore. Get the ball to this man. Just get him the ball. That doesn't mean force it to him in quadruple coverage, but if he's open, get him the ball. Rashad, I don't imagine we'll spend too much time on this, but Michael Pittman had a good game again.
For another week in a row, man. And even before this week, he was playing lights out, phenomenal football. The only knock anybody could have had, the only knock, is that he don't score a lot of touchdowns. What did he do this week? Come out and get 2 of them things on the first 2 drives of the game, really setting the pace, setting the tempo, setting the tone. Michael Pittman's a stud, man. He was targeted 12 times in the first half. Only got 3 targets in the second half, and one of them was that play you was talking about. They literally threw it up to him. I don't like that as a game plan, especially if you throw the ball 51 times. You need to target him a little more in the second half. But Michael Pittman is that. Whatever you want that to be. And Mike, I will say this is this is your most celebrated take. You was right about Michael Pittman. I honestly said, you said that before the season. I said I needed to see it. You believed already. And you were, kudos to you. You was definitely right. I know what I saw at USC. I knew this was the potential, but I thought it would take a little more time for him to develop into this. But nah, man, he's a budding star and looked like he has all the tools to be the future number 1 receiver for this Colts team for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not really all, I guess you could say, all the excited about it, but
due to the circumstances of it.
Due to the circumstances, of course,
right.
being 3-5, a pathetic performance yesterday. Of course, in my heart of hearts, I'm still jumping for joy for Michael. Continue to produce, continue to perform. But getting into the bad here, all right, this is probably where a lot more energy is going to come in. The first thing I got to point out, as good as we were against the run, we just didn't offer anything in the pass rush department. We just didn't. I do think we got a couple sacks, but we had 3 sacks and they were basically coverage sacks, really, except for Kamoko Touré's one. I think that was just a good move. Just beat the double team, split the double team, and get to Ryan Tannehill. Other than that, I mean, it was just abysmal. It was non-existent. Ryan Tannehill came out, averaged 11.6 yards per attempt. You couldn't really do anything against that. I mean, it goes back to what I said in preseason. Quarterback, edge rusher is going to determine where this team goes. And the pass rush has time and time again failed to show up. It is very, very unfortunate what happened to Tyquan Lewis, man. My heart goes out to him. He made a play. He was just trying to make another play, get it to the end zone. Freak accidents happen, man, especially if you're a defensive lineman. You're not used to making those moves. You're not used to catching the ball and then just sticking your back foot back and just going full speed. Your body's not used to that. So a non-contact injury happens. He's done for the year. Torn ACL. It's unfortunate. He was a fine player. He was coming into his own. You know, he was what he was, in my opinion, but he was still a serviceable member of the defensive end group, playing inside and out. But outside of that, man, again, Bandigu still, again, a healthy scratch. Dio Odegbo came back. I believe it was reported, 10 to 15 snaps, maybe. I think I counted maybe 6 or 7 that he got. Again, Kwity Paye, not doing much. Kamoko Touré, outside of that sack, what he give? I mean, these edge rushers, man, the development of these edge rushers is just so poor. It's just so poor. I mean, again, I watched it. These guys have no moves. They have no moves, no spinning moves, no just sidestep. There's nothing new. It is just a straight come at you, sort of like a bull rush. Just rely on my speed to get there. There's no technique with these guys at all whatsoever.
Yeah, man, the pass rush department seems like we're having the same conversation every year. When it comes to the edge, more so, we're pretty good up the middle. I think even Touré's sack came up the middle. It was he was lined up inside, a place where he rarely is, but I guess maybe he was filling in for Lewis on this particular lineup, this rotation. His sack came from the inside. Buckner's sack actually, of course, came from the inside. Dio Odegbo, who made his debut, he took up a double team actually and gave Buckner a one-on-one, and Buckner beat his man instantly and was able to get the sack. But man, we just got to get more, man. I know Quity's a rookie, and we all up here set the bar low. I know people looked at us strange in the Twitterverse and was wondering why we had him at 3.5 and 4 sacks for the season. But we know that edge rush takes time, man. Unless you're a freakish guy like Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa, Chase Young, those type of guys, you're not going to come in and set the world on fire. It just doesn't happen at this level because of the level of competition you're playing against. You're playing against these tackles, man. These are some of the best athletes in the world at tackle. And 3 second-round picks on edge rushers, it's unacceptable, the fact that none of those guys pop. I'm sorry. Tyquan Lewis, it's starting to come around, and I'm not going to be too hard on him because he moves from inside to outside. He's been asked to do a lot in his time. So I'm not going to be as hard on him. He actually had a sack the play before. He caught the interception in which he tore his ACL. So I'm super sad to hear about him. I see, on Twitter, he's real positive about it. He tweeted a couple times today saying he's going to hit the rehab hard and he's going to get right back. So I'm praying everything goes well for him and he's ready for opening day tomorrow. Hopefully he's still on the team because I know this is a contract year for him and Kamoko Toure. But Toure, nothing. Banagu was inactive. Man, it's just sad, man. It's just sad that these players have not been developed and it's not even being utilized to their strengths. I hate to say it, but it's a couple of these guys that's going to go somewhere else and it's going to flourish. This is not at the end of the road for them. They're going to get chances to prove themselves in other places. And some of these guys had a potential. Like I speak to position coaches and a couple of coaches around the league that would like to get their hands on this guy, on these type of guys, because they feel like those guys have untapped potential. And it's just a shame that they wasn't able to reach it here in Indianapolis.
This is something that I'm going to harp on a little bit. Maybe I'm a little bit more animated about it because we lost. But one thing that just pisses me off, one thing that irks my nerve the most, we keep calling for Frank Reich and Carson Wentz. We keep putting all the blame on these two guys. When are we going to point the finger at this defensive staff? I don't want to look at James Rowe. He's done a great job with Rocky Sin and Isaiah Rodgers. He's done a great job. I'm not looking at him. When are we going to start looking at Matt Eberflus and Brian Baker? I've been saying it for the longest time. I just added Brian Baker to my list now. When is that going to happen? Everywhere I see Frank Reich this, Frank Reich that, Frank Reich doesn't do this, Frank Reich doesn't do that. What does he got to do with allowing almost 30 points a game? Allowing, not scoring, allowing. What does he have to do with that? What does he got to do with being 31st in the league in pass defense? What does he have to do with that? We're going to get to Frank Reich in a minute. Mm-hmm. Trust me on that. But continuing to call out Frank this, Frank that, Frank, I don't see anything about the defense. I don't see anything about that. I'm going to harp on it a little bit more when we get to the ugly. But I'm so sick and tired of seeing Frank everywhere. Frank Reich this, Frank Reich that. I'm so sick and tired of seeing it. We did not lose yesterday's game because of Frank Reich. We didn't. He is not the sole reason that we lost. Now, speaking of Frank Reich staying in the bad category, a lot has been said. Why are you not giving Jonathan Taylor the football more? Okay. Rashad, remember we sat down on the preview show and I said Carson Wentz throws the ball more than 35 times. More than 35 times.
You said you wanted that.
Because guess what? Their secondary is not good. What I did not expect is for Carson Wentz to have his worst performance of the year.
Right.
That's what I didn't expect. Okay? I got what I wanted, what I expected, and hell, the throws were there. Overthrowing Mo Alley Cox, Michael Pittman Jr., overthrowing a wide open Ashton Doolin was not part of my plans, honestly. It wasn't part of Frank's plans either. But I agree to a point, to a level, with only giving Jonathan Taylor 16 carries. I agree with that. But if you told me only Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines would have 2 and 1, that's what would surprise me. That means we only ran the ball, less than 20 times. Now that I'm not on board with. I'm not on board with because I figured, you paid Nyheim Hines, give him the ball. Marlon Mack, you're trying to boost up his trade value, give him the ball. So I looked at it in the fourth quarter when we were going into overtime. Okay, I'll allow it. I'm not the biggest, that's not a big deal to me. But where now I haven't been the biggest getting onto Frank Reich, but now I'm going to. 4 quarters, you realize, man, Carson Wentz is just not on it today. He's just not on it today. I love my guy. I stand by my guy, but damn it, he's just not on it today. How can I help him? I got a guy who is fresh, mind you, who is fresh. My offensive line, there were some runs, averaging, what was it, 4.7 yards a carry in the game, I think it was. We like to throw that out there, but we forget that about 5 of those runs were stuffed. We forget about that. So remember that as well. But in overtime, my mind flipped. In overtime, okay, they're expecting you to throw the ball now. Now is where you run it. Now is where you gash them. Jonathan Taylor got 1 carry. 1 carry.
1.
Frank Reich did not have the awareness yesterday to notice his quarterback is not doing it, to notice his quarterback is not on it. He noticed that. He didn't even notice it. He did not have that awareness, that conviction to say, you know what, Jonathan Taylor, take us home. He didn't have that. For that, I will call Frank Reich out on. Giving him 16 carries through 4 quarters, I don't have a problem with. And I even said this with Kevin or later on in the segment you guys are going to hear. I thought in overtime was the prime position. Everybody had hands on their hips, man. We all know what that means. They're tired. They're breathing heavy. Run it down their throat. You're already missing Rashaan Evans and Jayon Brown, the 2 inside linebackers who are very good against the run. You don't have them anymore. So why did Jonathan Taylor not get any carries in overtime? That's what I'm going to get onto Frank Reich about.
Frank Reich, unbalanced game plan. I know Frank Reich loves to point to the game flow as what dictates his run pass count at the end of the game. He said he had about 6 more runs that was run pass options that Carson decided to keep and turn into throws. It was RPOs. So, yeah, man, okay, for those of you that don't know, when it's a run pass option, when it's an RPO call, what Carson does is he comes to the line of scrimmage and he looks at the amount of defenders in the box. And that's what he's basing his decision on pre-snap. If he sees it's a light box, then he's going to hand the ball off. If the box has a certain amount of defenders in it, then he's going to keep it. He's going to fake it. He's going to pull it out, and he's going to throw the ball. Most of the time, it's going to be a quick pass. It's going to be something in a flat to a tight end, or it's going to be a slant to one of the wide receivers. It's going to be something quick. That's why it's called a run pass option. He has the option to give the ball to the running back, keep the ball for himself, and I'll throw the ball. So a lot of the times, Frank Reich probably is calling the RPO with the intentions on giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor, and they see those boxes, and Carson checks out of it. That's not on Frank, just so y'all know that. That's not, you can't blame him for that. Like, if he calls 22 run plays, but 6 of them is RPOs and they get changed to passes, I mean, he intended to run the ball a certain amount of times. He can't control what Carson is seeing at the line of scrimmage. And Frank is the type of coach that gives his quarterback control at the line of scrimmage. We saw it with Andrew Luck. We saw it even with Jacoby Brissett. And we saw it with Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, who was a mastermind at the line of scrimmage, and most of the time made the right decisions at the line of scrimmage. And that's the part that Carson struggles with, because we know the other element that Carson gives us that Phillip didn't give us. And we see that from time to time too. But plain and simple, Frank has to run the ball some more. This offensive line is too good at run blocking. The running back is a top 2 running back in the NFL right now. And for those of you that saying Jonathan Taylor not getting the ball, I actually looked it up. He's getting the 4th most carries in the entire NFL. Just so y'all know. I mean, may not mean nothing to y'all, but he's top 4 in carries. So he's touching it a bit. Maybe not as much as you guys would like him to touch it, or even as much as I would like him to touch it. But Mike was right. Overtime was a prime time to get him the ball, especially the second possession in overtime. The first possession, we had to get a touchdown. The end didn't happen. We gave Tennessee the ball. They couldn't score. They pinned us pretty deep. And Carson just on the first play, he just decided to chuck it, man, and it didn't work out. It was a bad decision. Uh, we'll get to Carson in a second, right? But Frank, man, I know he's going to get killed for this, and deservingly so. He has his fair share of blame, but to just throw all of this at Frank's feet, I don't think it's fair, in my opinion.
And here's the thing: for some of you, when Rashad was talking about the RPOs, don't sit there and say, "Well, Frank Reich don't call RPOs, don't give Carson Wentz that option." That's not how it works. That's not how football works.
Right?
That's just not. That's a really good head coach giving a really good quarterback power of the offense. And that's what makes a lot of quarterbacks great. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they do it every single Sunday. Every single Sunday. As many times as Matt LaFleur wants Aaron Jones to get the ball in the red zone and score, Aaron Rodgers says, man, we're outnumbered, but I see a matchup I like outside. We're going to pass. That's how football works, guys. So speaking of, you mentioned the offensive line. I thought the offensive line had an average day yesterday, but at the worst possible times it could have broken down, it did. In some of the most crucial times where we needed protection, we didn't have any. Braden Smith is getting beat outside and in. You already know Eric Fisher's getting beat. Mark Glowinski got beat when he came in for Chris Reed. I'm not gonna, get onto all that. Y'all keep freaking criticizing Frank Reich. That's not his call. It's Chris Strasser's call, the offensive line coach. So again, educate yourself. That's not Frank Reich's call. They'll talk about it after the game, but after the game is after the game. We already lost. So, yeah. I mean, even when you go back to that boneheaded interception, how many guys were already in the backfield? And yes, it was supposed to be a screen, but they didn't even block the way you're supposed to on a screen. They didn't even get a hand on him. Bud Dupree was already in the backfield. He just tripped. That's the only reason why it wasn't a safety. Hell, maybe it would have been better. Maybe, who knows? Tennessee would have got the ball back anyway. Game over. So the offensive line, man, at the worst possible times, it broke down. At the worst possible times. Harold Landry came on a stunt, came inside. Man, imagine a defensive-minded guy who could actually call defensive plays. Imagine that. I want one of those. But, hey, Carson Wentz was sacked at the worst possible times, stopping momentum, stopping a drive where we could have done something. Offensive line deserves blame on this as well.
Yeah, the offensive line definitely has some leaks. When I speak about the strength of the offensive line earlier, I was speaking about the run game. In the pass pro has definitely not been a strength for this offensive line, as we already know. They have day leaks. It was Braden Smith's first game back. It was good to see the starting offensive line back for the first time, all playing together for the first time this season. And that's how you build communication and continuity, is by playing together. This was their first time playing together. I expect them to have some communication issues and just getting used to how each other likes to do things, was comfortable to one another, because that's big. Continuity is so big within the offensive line, man. If you get a group of guys that plays together for a whole season like we just had 2 years ago, those guys don't even need to communicate. They can feel each other. They know what each other's strong suit is. They know what each other's weaknesses is, and they're able to compensate for that. This group is going to take some time, and hopefully we came out of this game with a good bit of help on the offensive line. So hopefully they'll be back Thursday night, and they can start to build off of what happened. But this Tennessee defensive line is their strong point of their defense. Their defense is not very good overall, but that is what they do well. And like Mike said, it will seem like the high leverage situations, our pass protection just didn't hold up in moments in this game. The screenplay, which actually was a tripping that wasn't called. Naheem Hines was tripped coming out of the backfield. They ignored that. I don't even know if we have that on the good, the bad, the ugly. Do we have the refs? They needed their own They could have had their own segment for some of the calls that they made in this game. But that's neither here nor there. The offensive line, we had a couple of penalties, a couple of crucial holding calls. on the offensive line. Reed had one. Nelson had a ticky-tack one, man. That was terrible. Kelly had one. And these also, something else to touch on that, Jonathan, the running the ball. That was 3 runs, I believe, of almost 20 yards or more that Jonathan Taylor had that got called back. You know, if 2 of those runs stand, Jonathan Taylor sitting here at 18 carries for $110. Then who's complaining about what Taylor did? You know, like we have to take all of these things into consideration. Those were runs and big runs that popped that got called back. So this offensive line is doing what they need to do in a run game. We need that to translate into the passing game and get their passing protection up to par so that Carson Wentz can have the time to do what he needs to do in the pocket.
You mentioned the refs, man. I mean, I don't even give them a segment. NFL refs being bad, that's nothing new. It's just nothing new to me. But if we do want to shed light on it, I mean, yeah, the refs were so inconsistent yesterday. They were so inconsistent yesterday.
Absolutely.
I mean, even calling out my own team. DeForest Buckner didn't get called for 2 illegal hands to the face. He didn't get caught for those, but
that's true.
There was a deep ball to Mo Alley Cox who he was literally hooked on. I mean, the ball still hit his hand, them big ass hands. He should still be able to catch it, but he was hooked. There was contact, no penalty. Chris Reed made a great block on a Jonathan Taylor run. He gets called for holding. I don't know where in the hell he saw holding from. I really don't. I even went back and watched the play. Well, did they just get the number wrong or anything? No, they didn't get anything wrong. It wasn't a hold. So it was just so inconsistent, man.
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure if I know Destin knows this. I really don't like blaming wins and losses on refs. I really
me
don't.
neither. I'm not that type of guy.
I really hate that. But man, those refs were so bad yesterday. Yeah. When it came to the pile, the fumble, the Tyquan Lewis fumble.
Oh God!
Everybody said we were screwed and everything. I mean, here's my thing. I think a snapshot showed Anthony Ferkser had the ball at the bottom of the pile. Okay, George Odom goes in and he grabs the ball. Everybody's asking the guy that came out of the pile of the ball. That's not how it works. The refs are down on the field. That's why they race every time there's a pile. They race there to get everybody off because, I mean, in high school, I was at the bottom of those piles, man. I've had people scratch, pinch me, try and break my ankle. I've had people do the craziest things in a pile, okay? Well, maybe I probably did some of that stuff myself. But anyway.
Exactly. Look, okay. Now he's being honest.
Any advantage you get, you take it. We did not see what the ref saw right there. No. That camera angle did not show it. George Odom came in at the last moment, and he was in the pile, but he didn't just run in. He was in the pile. Ferkser already had it, and then he just rips it away. Hey, we got it. It's an unfortunate break, man. That injury to Tyquan, that was unfortunate. It was unfortunate. He fumbled before any knee or elbow even touched down. Even if it did touch down, he would have to be touched to actually be down. So that killed momentum as well. But yes, it does. I do have to mention the refs. They were bad, inconsistent both ways. Again, they were bad. Oh man, my head's starting to hurt. Getting into the ugly, man.
Oh boy.
Oh man, I guess I'll just go ahead and start with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, let's get it out the way. Let's get the monkey. Get the elephant out the room.
Carson Wentz. Now, let me just say this. Last show, I did say I've seen enough from Carson. He's the guy. One game did not change that opinion. I watched 7 games of him playing good football. One game did not change that opinion. All right. He still made a couple of good throws, but sometimes this is an NFL quarterback. Unfortunately, it happens on the biggest days. We can say some of the big stuff, or if a franchise quarterback would win you this game. There were many times where Patrick Mahomes didn't win this game. Aaron Rodgers didn't win this game. Tom Brady didn't win this game. Dak Prescott didn't win this game. There's many times that happen, all right? So let's not just kill Carson Wentz for this. But damn, Rashad.
Yeah.
This game, he chose to have his worst performance of 2021. He could have had it next week again or in 72 hours against the Jets. He could have had it in Jacksonville. But this game, I got to call him out on this, man, because you say there were a couple of those RPOs, okay? I remember a couple of them, they actually had the advantage. They had the advantage. And he decided to pass. Something about Carson Wentz in a big game, does he put too much on himself to win it by himself? Does he do that too much? I don't know. I saw it yesterday, a couple of them, just a couple. It was just two. But passes to Michael Pittman, why on God's green earth are we forcing the ball to Ashton Dulin like he's good? Why are we forcing that like he's about to be on ESPN top 10 plays? What are we doing? We can't throw the ball to anyone else. We got to throw it to Ashton Dulin. There's a reason why he's a gunner. Got love for him, but there's a reason why he's a gunner. There were some drops. He did airmail a couple of passes. One, I think 2 to Mo Alley Cox, 2 to Ashton Dulin, 1 to Zach Pascal, I think a couple to Michael Pittman. Some guys got their hands on him, but if you're that wide open like they were, you got to put it right here. You got to put it on the money. You have to. If they're that wide open, you got to do it. Carson Wentz did not do it. I don't care about all the media finally coming out and talking about Carson Wentz. They didn't want to say any of that the past 7 weeks, but when he has a bad game, now they're coming out. I mean, at least we have media attention that way. At least we know the primetime games will keep on coming. But yeah, man, Carson Wentz, easily the worst game of the year. Still didn't change my opinion. He still made some great throws, still made some good decisions, but I got to talk about that. Another stupid interception. What are you doing, dude? Ground the ball to Mo Alley Cox. He's standing right there. You don't have to be the hero, man. Ground the ball. Throw it at his feet. Hell, throw it at his head, for Christ's sake. Why are you just oh my gosh, man. I was so speechless, Rashad, when that play went down.
Man, listen. I'll start from the beginning. Carson, I just want to say, I'm in full support of you being the guy here in Indianapolis. I do want to say that. I don't know if maybe my comments in the past, I've been pro Carson pretty much this whole time. I can tell you that. Yesterday, man, listen, Tennessee, the first time, you've had 2 stinkers against Tennessee. Let's get that straight. One time was excused due to 2 bum ankles that you played on. You stunk it up that game. And this game, you just wasn't yourself, man. You made some bad decisions. You wasn't accurate. I believe you only completed a shade over 50% of your passes.
I think it was like 52%. And here's the thing, Rashad. This secondary isn't good. They're not good, and he did it.
Yeah, you didn't look good, Carson. You was inaccurate, throwing high. I think a lot of that's not due to you rushing and not setting your feet before you throw the football. Choppy. Your mechanics was off. It seems like you go back to old habits when you're being pressured. You're always trying to make a play. Sometimes you have to take the sack and live to see another down. And I know a lot of people are not going to hear this, but number 12 used to do this a lot too. Number 12 made a lot of boneheaded plays, just trying to make that play, make the big play, make the wild splash play. But sometimes we don't need that. Phillip Rivers was great at not making the wild splash play. He would throw it in the dirt. He would fall down and take the sack. He was great at that, not trying to do too much. And I think Carson needs to take some of that into his game, man. We love you on the broken plays. You break the sack, you get out of the pocket, make a big time throw. We love that. But you have to find a medium in between trying to make the big play and being safe with the football. you was a bit too reckless yesterday. That pick six, man, that was crazy. Like that, you throw that ball in the dirt and you go back to the 8-yard line where you were, and you try that again. But some of that blame has to go on Frank Wright for calling the screen pass so close to his own end zone and putting Carson in that predicament in the first place. Like, Frank, you got to wear some of that. That was a terrible play call. And what else? The pick in overtime, that one hurt me more than the pick six. The reason being, it was first down, bro. It was first down.
He had two wide open Jonathan Taylor and Mo Alley-Cox.
Jonathan Taylor is in the center of the field with one man that is about 15 yards away from him. If Jonathan Taylor makes him miss, even if Jonathan Taylor gets tackled by him, that's a 15-yard pickup. It's at least
25-yard game.
Yeah, if he makes that guy miss though in the open field, Jonathan Taylor might he's still be running right now while we're doing this podcast. Jonathan Taylor still be running in Lucas Oil right now. And that's the most frustrating part of the whole thing is that you threw that ball and Pittman didn't even have a shot at it. You know, he never had a chance.
He was triple covered.
There was a defender over the top. There was a defender underneath. And the guy who actually made the pick came off of not Mo Alley-Cox. He came off of somebody else that was running a deep route. So he just read your eyes the whole way. Kevin Byard just read your eyes the whole way and made an awesome play. He's been playing great this year. We have to be better. Carson, you have to be better. Decision-making, I thought it was some good plays that you made in this game. I thought it was some good throws. Made a hell of a throw to Pittman a couple of times. But then another thing, Mike, once T.Y. Hilton went down, we had 3 healthy receivers. And one of them was Ashton Doolin. So we really have 2 healthy receivers. That's all we was left with once Pittman went down. Why are we only dressing 4 receivers is beyond me. That's another thing. That's on Frank. That's a Frank thing. Depending on T.Y. Hilton, a guy who's been in and out the lineup with dealing with injuries, you're going to depend on him and only dress 4 wide receivers, one of them being Ashton Doolin. So it's really 3 wide receivers. And then T.Y. Hilton goes down. We stuck with 3 wide receiver sets. And one of those receivers is Ashton Doolin, who's not much of a receiver. We saw the pass. Carson airmailed him. If he catches that pass, if Carson hits that slant, that's a field goal. That pretty much puts the game away. It's several opportunities that Carson had. Carson had 3 opportunities to put that team away, and he couldn't do it in neither one of those situations. So
it's frustrating, man. It is so frustrating because the Titans literally begged us to take this game. They begged us. They made some stupid penalties.
They did.
They kept us in the game. They tried to hand it to us, literally just put it in our pocket, and we would not do it. For the life of us, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't. Whether if it was a missed tackle, a stupid coverage, a stupid play call, a missed throw, a drop, whatever the case may have been, we would not take this game. This now getting into the next, I agree with you, by the way. That second interception was so stupid, man. The next thing we're going to talk about in the ugly. Again, when are we going to talk about Matt Eberflus? Just when. I just want someone to come to me and I want someone to explain to me how everything is on Frank, but this defense just gets let off the hook so many times. Can someone please explain that to me? I really, really want to be educated on this because I think I have a pretty good idea of how the defense is supposed to be played. But, I mean, this defense is not good. It's not good. So, where do I even start?
Broken record, Mike. It's a broken record.
Rashad, if you score 31 points in the game and you held Derrick Henry to 68 yards, 9 times out of, or how many times out of 10 do you think we're winning?
We win 10 out of 10.
Winning 10 out of 10. We gave up 34 points. 34 points.
Derrick Henry didn't have one of them.
He didn't have one of them. He wasn't responsible for any of them. Ryan Tannehill averaged 11.6 yards per completion, not throw, completion. Secondary is getting obliterated. Nothing new is coming. Can't rely on your front. But for some reason, we just keep on blaming Frank Reich. We keep on keeping on. One thing I can actually love Frank Reich for is his aggression, his ability to fight to win a game. You know what not trying to win a game is? When you're in the fourth quarter, you hold a 24-21 lead. You have a team backed up at their 46-yard line. They are at 3rd and 17, and you know what the fuck you do? You allow A.J. Brown to get 15 yards, and he's not even caught until 12 yards after the fact he's already caught the ball. We keep on calling out Frank Reich. We keep on calling out Carson Wentz. When the hell are we gonna call out Matt Eberflus? Y'all want to highlight, oh, he's running the ball. He's playing not to lose. You're at home in a division game. You are at 3rd and 17 because the Titans gifted you that yardage by a stupid holding penalty. And what do you do, Matt? What do you do? You say, guys, let's play 12 yards off the ball. We're not going to give anything up. We're not going to give this first down. Instead of having them punt the ball, no, my dumb ass is just going to let them kick a 46-yard field goal and tie it up. When are we going to start calling the man out? When are we going to start doing that? I just want to know, Rashad. I want to know.
Where do we start? I'm gonna say this. Eberflus is not a Frank Reich guy. Frank Reich didn't hire him. Frank Reich didn't co-sign for him to be hired. Frank Reich, let's go off the field. He's a real biblical man. He's an ordained minister, pastor. I heard he's one of the nicest guys in football. So yeah, once Eberflus had the job, technically before Frank Reich even got hired, once Frank Reich came on board, I could tell by the type of man and guy he is, his principles. He's not going to say, nah, fire that guy. I'm going to bring my guy in. He's not that type of guy. He's a guy that's going to, okay, that's who you got in place. No matter how you got here, let's work with him. Let's do it. You know, I'll find a way to work with. But it's clear that this head coach and this defensive coordinator, their mindsets are not aligned. They have two totally different mindsets in the way they approach the game. Eberflus has been, don't break. Frank Reich says, I'm going to break this shit. I'm going to break your ass. That's the way he coaches. He coaches for the jugular. He goes for the throat. Sometimes it doesn't work, and he gets crucified for it by Coach Nation. Oh, well. But I would rather have a guy that's out there going for the kill than a guy that's being too passive and just say, no, what we're going to do is we're not going to give up the big play. We're going to keep everything in front of us. What good is not giving up the big play if you're giving up 10 to 15 little?
I think Rashad's audio cut out there, guys. Man, I don't even know where to start with this. I really don't. As we're trying to get Rashad back in, I mean, where do you even start with the defense? Again, like Rashad said, guys, I just want y'all to be honest. Sit down and be honest with yourselves. Y'all weren't pissed off when the Titans had 3rd and 17 at their 47-yard line in position to kick a 68-yard field goal. A 68-yard field goal turned into a 46-yard field goal. That's what I want to know. And we have Rashad back right now. So Rashad, before you cut out, man, I just kept asking the people, were y'all not pissed when you turned a 68-yard field goal or a would-be punt into a 46-yard field goal in a tie game?
It's inexcusable, man. It's inexcusable. I literally text in the Blue Stable Elite chat. And any of y'all that's fans or supporters of the Blue Stable, just hit one of us up if y'all want to be added to the Elite chat that we have. I literally typed in there, yes, it's a 3rd and 17. I say he's going to give up 14 yards, and they're going to kick a field goal. It's so predictable, bro. The shit we give up underneath is so frustrating to watch. What good is preventing a big play if you're giving up 10 underneath? It's the equivalent. It's the same thing. It's pitch and catch. These wide receivers are running 10. Our cornerbacks are bailing at the sticks. For those of you that don't understand what bailing is, they're dropping back. They're turning and running upfield as these wide receivers are getting to the sticks, running stop routes and out routes and in breaking routes right at the first down mark. Why are you bailing out? That's situational football. It's not play design. I know someone replied to me and said it's a play design. It's a cover 3. The cornerbacks is supposed to bail. It's supposed to bail out and cover the deep zone. Yes, they're supposed to bail, but they also supposed to play situational football. If no one is behind that outside corner, he's responsible for guarding that first down marker. You're not supposed to be bailing out when someone gets and runs a 10-yard stop route on 3rd and 9. It makes absolutely no sense. This is the easiest defense to complete a high completion percentage. They give up mad yards. And it's not like the defense is even the part of the defense we run is supposed to be bend but don't break. You allow people to get down the field, and then when the field shrinks, you get in the red zone. It's easier to defend. We're still giving up touchdowns in the red zone, so it's not even preventing anything. I spoke on this last week. I said the only way this defense works is with a pass rush. We don't have a pass rush, so you know what we have to do? We have to force turnovers. That's the only way we can get a stop. You should not be lining up every possession hoping your defensive playmaker get a turnover because that's the only way you're going to get a stop. It's a stupid way to play football. It makes absolutely no sense. Matt Eberflus and Frank Reich are not on similar pages. Frank Reich needs a defensive coordinator that coaches the game just as aggressive as he coaches the offense. That is the only way this is going to work. If you're too afraid to take chances as a defensive coordinator or as a defensive play caller, then get the hell out the way and let somebody in this position that is willing to risk it. That's it, man. That's all I got to say.
Hey, man, just like Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit. Yeah,
That's a fact, bro.
At least he has Todd Bowles, who says, you know what? Regardless of my limitations on my corners, you get up there, you get your ass up there, and you play press man coverage. Defensive front, you do your damn job. That's how it is. But here comes Matt Eberflus. Oh, all right. Well, hey, I'm going to put you on an island, even though you suck. You're injured. You got a bad calf. I'm going to put you on the island. We just activated you off IR, but here, go get that quarterback. We can't develop you because we suck. We still have a job for some reason, but hey, you go get that. We haven't taught you any new moves, that, by the way. But what you were using at Rutgers, go ahead and use that here 3 years into the league. Yeah, that's what he does. I don't know what that call was. We keep saying Frank Reich play calls not to lose. Matt Eberflus literally play calls to lose. So which one do you want? Not to lose or to lose? Which one do you want? The success rate that these offenses have against this defense, how many drives has this defense had? I'm actually going to look this up. I'm actually going to do the homework on this later on because I don't have it right now. But I'm very curious to know what the comparisons on this defense, drives that ended without points versus drives that ended with points. And I guarantee you the one that ended with points might just be higher than the one without points.
If you break it down and do just second half so far this season.
Oh, Jesus. I already said that before. His second half defense sucks. Even if you have 3rd and 7, that's what pissed me off. He didn't even try. He just said, don't let him get the first down. I would have said, what the fuck are you talking about? Don't let him get yards. I'm talking about first down. He didn't put Rock or Xavier in press. You know what else? That would have been the prime play to send a Kenny Moore nickel blitz. He didn't even do that. No pass rush. No game plan whatsoever. No development on the front. And I finally pieced it together, Rashad. After 4 years, I finally pieced it together. Everybody goes at Frank Reich because we lose, because we give up leads. But you know what is so crazy? 2 times the pressure gets put onto him because the defense is not good. The defense has to rely on the other team making mistakes for them to get off the field. And when they don't get off the field, guess what? More pressure is put back onto the offense to go out and score. The defense sucks. Darius, DeForest, if you are listening to this, I love you so much. But Matt Eberflus needs to get the hell out of Indy. He has to. Go hire Tony Dungy's freaking daughter to be the defensive coordinator. I bet she could call a more aggressive defense than this dude. I promise you she can. Hell, get her in here. Get her in here anyway. They got her email, phone number, Skype, Zoom, anything to get away from this dude. Just looking at him on the sideline makes my ass hurt. Dude, just, man. Oh, my gosh. This defense being so trash, puts so much on. This defense being so trash puts so much pressure on this offense. As good as Frank Reich is, now he has to be double as great, which is not realistic.
That's true.
Not realistic.
He gets blamed for offensive failures and defensive failures.
And here's the thing.
One of them he has really nothing to do with.
And here's the thing. Scoring 31 points is not limitations.
Yeah, you're supposed to win if you score 31 points.
31 points and you're not winning?
And you shut down Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry scored nothing?
Scored nothing. The only bad offensive game that we've had was against Seattle, and that was the home opener. That's what it was. But, hey, go after Frank Reich. Call for his job. Call out Frank Reich. Call out Carson Wentz. You know what I know they do? They at least try to win. They at least try to be aggressive. They at least have a game plan. Again, when are y'all going to jump on board? Brian Baker, bye. Matt Eberflus, bye. James Rowe, you can stay.
I like James.
Man, look, I love my Colts, man. I love the Indianapolis Colts. I am a true-hearted fan. But I can't sit here and be a cheerleader and say everything is okay. It's not. We are a 3-5 football team, and that's what we are. I don't even care anymore about how much talent we have. I don't even care anymore about how many high-round picks we have, how many all-pros we have, this and that and the other. I don't give a damn. We are a 3-5 football team, which means we suck, which means we're not good, which means we don't know how to win. All because the defense is giving up 28 points a game.
That's crazy, man. You can't win in this football league giving up that every game. And Mike, you know what's gonna happen, man. And this will segue to our last thing that we had on the docket. We're gonna win these next 2 games. We're gonna beat the Jets and the Jags, and we're gonna be sitting here at 500. still wondering if we're a good football team because we played the Jets and the Jags. But I think I wholeheartedly think we're going to beat both of those teams. And we're going to be at 500 here in 2 weeks. Well, a week and a half because we play the Jets coming up on Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, the outlook for the Colts, can they get to the playoffs? Man, I don't even care anymore. No, they can't. They can't. No, they're not. They're not going to the playoffs. They're not. They're not going to go to Buffalo and beat Josh Allen in that loaded offense. They're not going to beat Tom Brady in that loaded offense. They're not going to beat, Las Vegas of all people. They're not going to beat Arizona because this defense is just not good. It's just not good. It's not. Guys,
I don't have no confidence in us beating any of those teams either. But the crazy thing is, I think we can play all of those teams close. But
yes,
due to the fact that we can't stop anybody in the second half,
we can't. We literally rely on the other team making mistakes in Darius Leonard's right hand.
A penalty, Darius Leonard punching the ball out, a Kenny Moore interception, or they have to make a mistake for us to get a stop. There's no such thing as a 3-and-out or us not allowing an offense to get 10 yards for a first down. That doesn't happen in the second half.
Dude, it's so crazy because I still even remember having that confidence as a TCU fan. Our offense, man, they're just not in it. But you know what? Our defense is going to go out there and give our offense every chance. Even go back to that
defense does.
Even go back to that 2014 game against West Virginia. Offense was having a bad game, but the defense time and time again gave Trevon Boykin and them boys a chance, and they ended up winning that game on the second field. You know why? Because they doubled down, they did their job, and they were physical. They were running everywhere. We don't have that. Secondaries like the Legion of Boom come around once every decade. Tandems like that don't come around often. But man, I can't remember the feeling to have a defense that you trust and say, man, we're not going, but I trust these guys right now. Everybody.
The way we run cover 3, you swear we was the Legion of Boom.
You would swear. You would swear. But hell, the way we freaking play on defense, you would have me think we're the 2012 Lions going on with 16. Look, man. I'm almost like done at this point talking about this. I'm almost just done with this conversation. I mean, if Chris Ballard cannot sit there and say, man, it just won't work out with him. Now I'm looking at you, Ballard. Now I'm looking at you. This isn't working out. This isn't working out. I'm looking at you too, Frank. Go to Chris and say, man, something's got to happen. That's what I would have done, in freaking preseason.
Yeah, if we run it back with this same coaching staff, then I'd be at a loss for words, man. I'd be at an absolute loss for words.
But before we get out of here, man, outlook on the rest of the season, man. There's a chance, of course, there's a chance. But let me change up the question. Do you have the confidence in this team to put it together and at least get to the playoffs?
Well, we should mention with the unfortunate news that came down today, we heard Derrick Henry's going to have foot surgery tomorrow, and he will potentially miss the remainder of the football season. So that's unfortunate. I mean, I know Tennessee is a rival, and we don't like them. We hate their guts. They hate us. But I never want to see a guy go down with an injury at all. Like and anybody celebrating that is classless and tasteless, and it's sickening. It really is. We got to put things in proper perspective. These guys go out there and put their bodies on the line, and for that guy to suffer such a significant injury, I feel terrible for him. He was doing iconic things at the running back position, things that we haven't seen before. So I wish well wishes to him. Hopefully the surgery goes good tomorrow, and he can rehab that thing and get back to being the Derrick Henry that we know him to be. Now, with that said, I know people's thinking the Titans is about to fall off for the map, and which they very may well, but we're too far in the hole to catch the Titans. in my opinion. The Titans will have to go 9-8.
They would have to go over the next 9 games. I think they would have to go like 2-7 to catch the division.
Right. So they would have to go 2-7. That's not happening. They still have 2 games versus the Jaguars, I believe, and they have a game against the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. That's 3 wins right there, man. I'm sorry. The tough part of their schedule is pretty much gone. I know they play the Rams next, and I talked to my brother earlier about that game. He's pumped up for that one. Sunday Night Football. Make sure y'all tune in. Potential future defensive coordinator. Get a chance to check out, the Rams team. Adding Von Miller today. He's stoked about that. But this is not a Rams podcast. So Tennessee has the Rams and the Saints, I believe, coming up. Those are going to be 2 tough games for them due to Derrick Henry not playing.
Saints don't have Jameis Winston anymore.
Oh, yep. Another guy who suffered the season-ending injury Sunday. Sorry to hear about what happened to him, man. It's interesting to see what the Saints are going to do. But that's neither here nor there. The Titans, this division is over. So let's just focus on the wild card. One thing I can say, Mike, is that the AFC is wide open, bro. Nobody really wants to run away with the AFC. There's nobody dominating, not even the Buffalo Bills. We saw them fall to the Titans last week. They didn't even look great against the Dolphins. That game was 3-3 at halftime, and I was like, Jesus Christ, do anybody want? We seen the Bengals fall to the Jets, the same Jets team we see Thursday. Mike White is coming into town, and
oh Jesus,
that's yeah, man. The guy lit the Bengals up, so. That's not looking like the gimme game it was at one point in time this season. So we saw Baltimore get their head cracked open by the Bengals last week. Nobody wants to run away with this thing, man. The Chiefs are not the Chiefs, obviously. And if Baltimore is one of the 2 best teams in the AFC, y'all seen what we did them. We had them.
Yeah.
So the Colts can play with anybody. But until they prove that they can close out a team, a playoff caliber team, a team with a winning record, then I'm going to say no, the playoffs are not in reach for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I think the playoffs are within reach. Is it reality? Man, I don't even want to say it's reality, man. I'm very, very close to just saying sit Wentz, get that first round pick. Let's do something in the offseason.
It'll never happen.
I don't think – I mean, we're not there yet. But if the season is clearly down and he doesn't sit Wentz to get that first-round pick back, that'll be a discussion. That'll be a discussion. Now, I will say, if we lose to the Jets, someone's getting their ass fired. Someone needs to get fired. I don't even care who it is. You could fire the freaking cafeteria lady for serving bad brownies. Someone needs to get fired if you lose to the New York Jets. I'm just going to say that, okay? I'm going to say that. But
it would be a catastrophic embarrassment to the Indianapolis Colts if we lost on prime time to the New York Jets and Mike White.
Man, I might not even come on the show until like the offseason. But guys, again, the playoffs, they're within reach. Broncos, are they consistent? The Chiefs, they're down bad. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, do you actually think they'll, make it to the end of the year? Handle that game against the Raiders, handle that game against the Patriots. Maybe we're in the conversation. But right now, man, we're 3-5. 0-5 against good teams. Handle your business, man. You'll get to 500. You'll get to 5-5 facing the freaking Jets and the Jaguars. Can we get to that Buffalo game already? Honestly, I really want to see how this team responds. I want to see how this team responds, man. We're going to Buffalo, right? Yeah, we're going to Buffalo. So, guys, we'll be back here like in the next 24 hours or so to give you a preview. Give you a preview. Hopefully we beat the Jets, man. It's come to that. Hopefully we beat the Jets. He is Rashad McGinnis. I am Michael Terrazas. Fire freaking Matt Eberflus. All right. Guys, again, Make sure to comment, like, subscribe on YouTube. Hit the rate review button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, wherever you listen to this show at all. But of course, once again, as always, much love to Fansided, okay? Official Colts podcast of Fansided, the Blue Stable. Again, guys, maybe there's a change coming. Maybe there's new hope. I don't know, guys, but come on. We'll see you here in the next 24 hours gearing up for Mike White. Okay. the next guy that's going to put up 300 yards on this defense. Guys.
And make sure y'all stay tuned for Kevin Bowen coming up next.
Oh, yes, Kevin, my good friend Kevin. He is coming up next, guys. That was a good talk with him. Shout out to him. Oh, of course, making the time to come onto the show. Again, guys, he is Rashad McGinnis. I am Michael Terrazas. We will see you here again shortly. All right, guys, we are back with the great Kevin Bowen. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me here today.
You bet, man. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing good, man. Considering how yesterday's game happened, man, I am surprisingly in a good mood. I'm a TCU fan, so it was an end of an era. Coach P is out. But, hey, there's always stuff to look up to, right?
No, sorry to hear that. Talk about a legend there. So I always enjoyed watching them over the past decade or so. So, yeah, we'll have to see how things transpire down there.
Definitely. Well, guys, Kevin Bowen is here, and he is a busy man, so we got to get right to the business, guys. So, unfortunately, Kevin, Colts fall to 3-5. They couldn't get the job done yesterday. It's almost, I mean, if you want to say you saw it coming, okay. I mean, we can't really complain too much. But one thing that I came out of this game with, the defense, man, the defense. You know, we're gonna cover two things: the defense and also the offensive, probably play calling that we're gonna get into. The defense, I know you've mentioned on your podcast, defensive accountability. When will that come into effect? When will that happen? And I'm curious for the same thing, especially when you hold Derrick Henry 28 carries, 62 yards, I believe it was, 2.4 yards a carry, but then you get gashed 11.5 pass yards per completion. That's pretty ironic. The biggest play, in my opinion, was early in the fourth quarter when you were up 24-21. You had the Titans at, I believe it was 37 at their 46-yard line. They're looking at like a 65-yard field goal. And you literally back your defense up about 12 yards off the ball and give A.J. Brown he picked up 15 yards on that pass. That's not winning defense, in my opinion. That's just not winning defense. And I've been vocal about that. This scheme doesn't work, in my opinion. It just doesn't work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A.J. Brown was incredible yesterday, and you had no answer, and it didn't matter who. Rhodes obviously on the touchdown, that speaks for itself. Kenny Moore was in coverage, I believe. That play you referenced, Michael, that happened twice. They had a 2nd and 20, if I'm not mistaken, early fourth quarter, and gave up an easy pitch and catch. Or maybe it was the reverse. Maybe it was one of those was in overtime. I think the 2nd and 20 might have been overtime, actually. Yeah, after Brown got the penalty. And just way too easy. Again, Kenny was in coverage one time. Rock Yassin was in coverage another. And obviously Xavier. It's been my biggest issue with Matt Eberflus. And it's a lot different than Frank Reich. Frank is such an aggressive-minded head coach, and yet Eberflus doesn't really fall in that from a philosophical standpoint. So incredible job against Henry. Obviously, he was limited, very limited, but still I thought you controlled the line of scrimmage with Grover Stewart and Buckner and them all afternoon long. And just an opportunity to, force a long field goal, force a punt, force a 4-down territory, something. And yet you let Randy Bullock get into very manageable field goal, especially indoors.
And Randy Bullock is a very good kicker. Let's understand that he is very good. He's very reliable. I have been vocal. I was even vocal last year after the debacle against Pittsburgh that I'm kind of ready for a change on the defensive side. I think just allowing the bend but don't break, don't allow the big play is a mantra that Matt Eberflus has. I think allowing the play that I referenced, that's allowing the big play. We think about not allowing 6, but allowing a team to stay in the game, to get points, to be in the game instead of trying to knock them down. That's not a winning mentality, in my opinion. And I agree that Frank Reich is very aggressive. Matt Eberflus is the opposite of that. And one thing before we go on to the offense here, I have been vocal. I know a couple of my co-hosts, Destin and Rashad, have been vocal. Not a big fan of in-season change, but if where you are right now, Kevin, in Chris Ballard's shoes, how the defense has performed lately, the shortcomings, even this and the past seasons, are you making a change right now or thinking about it in the future and getting a list of candidates together?
Yeah. Yes, I would make a change. Would I do it in? Then I'm not as married to it as maybe other people are. It's not like I view this defensive staff as having somebody that either brings a different defensive mind, different. Obviously, everyone's on the same page here. They all come from this background. But honestly, this is going to be a big Ballard sort of decision. He wanted this scheme, so he's got to all of a sudden decide that this is not the scheme to get it done, or maybe this is the scheme, but maybe you're doing things a little bit more aggressively to just. When you look at the pass rush, Michael, no position group has more drafted resources invested into it than the pass rush. So either Ballard's at fault or Eberflus is at fault. Ballard for not drafting the right guys, or Eberflus and whatever his defensive line coaches for not developing that talent. So that to me is something that there must be an answer that comes from that, because you have not wasted any sort of resources and shying away from drafted there. So I would make a change. The article I wrote a couple weeks ago that you referenced earlier, that's something that this is a Ballard blame, a Reich blame, because he's the head coach and oversees the defense ultimately. Mm-hmm. And then also certainly an Eberflus blame when it comes to that. And it's crazy how great the run defense has been. I mean, great it's been really in all 4 of these seasons. And yet you get into obvious passing situations that you still can't get home on a consistent basis. It's just got to be, and it is. It's maddening.
And I don't even see any adjustments, in my opinion. I don't see any actual stunts. I remember he was vocal after the Ravens game. We tried everything. I don't see how putting Grover Stewart in coverage is trying everything, in my opinion, against Marquise Brown. That's just my opinion. But going to the offense here, I have not been critical of Frank Reich at all. I just think going into yesterday's game, the Titans have in my opinion, they have a sorry secondary, in my opinion, especially with Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton being out. Why would you not attack that scheme? I was vocal on our preview show for this game. I want more pass attempts than Carson Wentz has had this year, and that's what happened. But I wasn't expecting Carson Wentz to have the blunder that he did yesterday. I wasn't expecting that. But with running the ball, I think 16 was a little bit too low. I do think it was a little bit too low. I was fine with it through 4 quarters, but I think in overtime, when you knew you had that defense shot, you knew that they were tired. I was surprised. I was honestly begging now all of a sudden to run the football more. Just gash them, especially when they got the ball back the second time. Now you're in the catbird seat, go and get it. And that did not happen. So Kevin, in your opinion, did the loss yesterday have to do with some of the play calling of Frank Reich, and how what is the word? Inconsistent has he been thus far?
Yeah, I thought that point you just made was tremendous about overtime. 1 touch, 7 snaps for Taylor. This dude is rare. He's rare in 230 pounds and 4'3". He's rare in just his stamina and his durability. Like, at that point, and Frank and I have actually been going back and forth on this all day today. Frank, I was talking to him about it. I'm like, this is not just your average running back. Like, he suits it up and he gets better as the game moves along. And obviously a byproduct of that is you got a Tennessee defense that is banged up, that is not a vaunted rushing attack. It is into overtime. They've had all these emotional games the Titans have come off of. I would have been pounding it. I would have been pounding it with Taylor. Wentz looked so darn shaky to me in that 4th quarter. So shaky. I would have tried to alleviate what was on his plate. So I don't agree with it. I have been more of a pro Frank play caller than I think some of, I don't know, certainly Twitter, but maybe some of my colleagues as well. Yesterday, what frustrated me was obviously you bring up the Taylor usage, and then that screen call to Mo Alley Cox in the first pick. I think Wentz could have grounded it. It would have been difficult, but yeah. I think Wentz could have grounded it. But you're just setting him up into a really low percentage play there. He's already got 2 feet in the end zone pretty much right off the snap. Obviously, some free rushers can happen on screen plays like that as well. And what worries me is, like, Frank had all this time to think about that play. It's not like there was some turnover that just happened and, oh, my God, panic mode, like, blah, blah, blah. No. you're thinking about that for quite some time. I think that's what's truly worrisome for me.
I agree. I thought Mo Cox was in his line of sight. I thought he could have grounded it right there. I still don't know what in the world the pass was. I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, heads up to the linemen. At least they looked like they were ready to catch it, I guess. But I do agree with that screen that far back into the end zone. That is a low percentage play. I've seen it in college. I've seen it in NFL. It does have a low probability of even turning out into a plus play because you're already backed up. 9 times out of 10, the defense is coming when you're backed up. Yeah. So that's going to happen. I definitely another thing that I didn't, and this isn't necessarily on Frank Reich, but with Carson, I mean, I've been the biggest Michael Pittman fan. And when we go away from him, the offense is not going. Is that just how good he is? Is that how inconsistent Carson Wentz was forcing it to Ashton Doolin? Mo Ali Cox, in my opinion, I like him, but he's just inconsistent and he is what he is. But when he is rolling, the offense is rolling too. Are you a pro for Carson Wentz going to Ashton Doolin, Mo Ali Cox, instead of forcing it the way he did on that second interception?
Yeah, I don't think you've got an abundance of skill, talent, pass catcher wise right now. Last March when this past March when the Colts re-signed Hilton, I wanted one more move at wideout. Mm-hmm. Paris Campbell's injury history, and hell, unfortunately, Ty has had some injuries. So I would like to have seen a little bit more in the proven category there. Your tight end group, I think, is fine. I don't think it's really anything more than that. So yeah, I thought a few too many touches for Doolin. A guy that I would like to see a little bit more involved is Hines as well. I know he's not that natural wideout, but still his touches have really, really shrunk here lately. And of course he had the big drop against the 49ers, but still, I think he's a weapon that you need to utilize there. And, I just thought in general, no matter the personnel, Wentz just looked really, really shaky to me. Mm-hmm. He finished the game, 3 of his last 14, I want to say it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awful. Again, against a cornerback group that you were talking about earlier. I mean, it's really a bunch of no names. So, yes, lots on Michael Pittman. And this is now Michael Pittman. Get used to it. You're going to see heavy number 1 wideout attention because the group isn't, super deep. The tight end group isn't really dynamic at all. So they're going to have to find kind of other avenues. Can you get Pascal more involved? I wouldn't mind seeing Kiki Kuti with, Hilton out Thursday. He's a guy that's at least proven. We saw him for a few snaps a couple weeks ago. I'd like to see him in there a little bit more consistently.
I definitely would too. I definitely think with Michael Pittman, he is starting to garner that attention. I think what Vrabel and his defensive coordinator did, I saw a little bit in the second quarter. I haven't seen the all 22, so I can't really give an in-depth analysis. But I did see a little bit of double teaming, a safety and a cover safety over the top of him on a couple snaps. But from Carson, I mean, this is more of a game that's more on Carson than it is Frank, if I'm being honest. I mean, you said it, 3 of 14. The best pass we have is a defensive pass interference. That's what I think. That's what I read from you yesterday on Twitter and a couple of other guys. And I mean, that just speaks to the lack of quality depth. I definitely think we have some good talent, but it's unproven and very, very raw talent. When you look at the practice squad, Mike Strawn, who was inactive today or yesterday, a healthy scratch. Zach Pascal needs to be better, in my opinion. He's had a few drops.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Pittman, I mean, he's doing what he needs to do, honestly. He really is. I think the roof being open, that affected some of the vision yesterday. But, hey, I mean, the Colts are at 3-5 because the Colts are a 3-5 football team, in my opinion. Chris Bowd has been vocal. You are what your record is. And we can talk about how much talent there is. We can talk about the defense, the offensive line, running back. We can do all of that, but it is 3-5 at the end of the day. Unfortunately, now some Colts fans might think this is not fortunate, but Derrick Henry did suffer an injury yesterday. Unfortunately, he won't be able to break records that I thought he would be. My heart goes out to him, but I have been vocal that if Derrick Henry goes down, the Titans are in trouble, and this is what it's looking like. So, Kevin, before we get you out of here, do you think the Colts have a chance to catch the Titans this year, or at least just gain momentum to get into the playoffs, whether if it's a home game because you're a division winner or a wild card?
Yeah, I would say only wild card. I'm not even looking at the division. I get it. It's a huge injury, but you got to finish above them in the standings. So let's say you go 7-2 down the stretch, which is a big ask. Obviously, that's winning 2 of 4 against the Cardinals, Bills, Bucks, and Raiders, if you want to throw them in there. But let's say you do that and you go 10-7. That means the Titans have got to go 3-6 the rest of the way, something like that. They play the Texans twice. They play the Dolphins. They play the Jags. They're going to play the Saints. That Jameis, like, their schedule's much, much easier. So I'm not even going down that path. If we get to December, maybe we can have that conversation. Right now, it's wild card. A lot of teams around them, the Colts have already lost 3 games in the conference. That's notable when you start 3 or 4. I think it's 3 games in the conference. That's notable when you start thinking about tiebreakers and whatnot as well. So you're going to need help. Like I said, to me, 7-2 and see what happens. I think you got to get to 10. 9-8 might, but there's just too many teams jumbled in there. You got teams right now like the Chargers, the Browns, the Chiefs. They're all on the outside looking in. I think one of them is going to get to double-digit wins. So, yeah, you got to get to 7-2.
All right, this is my closing thought. Moving forward, I'm a huge Colts fan, but hey, I'm going to be truthful. And when this defense steps on the field, I don't trust it at all. I really don't. Even if it's a 14-point lead, a 35-point lead, I don't care. I just don't trust it. People are saying Frank Reich gave up a 14-point lead, but there was 3.5 quarters left to play when they had that 14-point lead. So, Kevin, thank you for your time, man. Absolutely. It was great getting some insight from you, man. I've been vocal. You are the best out there in Colts media, man. You know how much love and respect I got for you. Other than that, where can we find you?
Yeah, appreciate those kind words, man. Always enjoy hopping on with you. It's at KBowen1070 on Twitter. Do our daily morning show on our station from 7 to 10 a.m. called the Fan Morning Show. So just check out my Twitter profile and you'll see links in there for everything.
Also, check out his podcast, Kevin Bowen and Chris Presley at Kevin's Corner. So again, Kevin, thank you for joining, hopping on. Unfortunately, we're 3-5, but hey, maybe Kevin has that good juju coming on the Blue Stable podcast, and we're going to turn it around here. All right. So, guys, he is Kevin Bowen. I am Michael Terrazas. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of the Blue Stable podcast. We will be back with you in the next 24 hours with a preview of the Jets Thursday night game. We will see you in 24 hours.